All right, so it is 7:01, calling this meeting to order. We do have a Zoom session operational right now. It's being recorded. We anticipate that one of our members will be joining virtually. He has not yet joined us, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So with us in the room today, we have Peg Stone, our town accountant. We have our town administrator, and Eloise Sauls and myself on the Energy Committee. Business for today, actually I don't have the agenda.
Why don't we just start with the election of a new chair?
Okay, so first order of business is electing a new chair. Any nominations?
You.
Do I have to second myself? I second myself. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sauls aye, Wysocki aye.
If Jason wants to challenge that, we can reconsider it, but I think he'll be thrilled.
Okay. All right. I wish I had that thing on. So
Now,
I could see.
on the agenda, the 60,000 energy
Okay.
credits.
Awesome. So if you could kind of take me through what this is. These are renewable energy credits that have accrued over time based off of our previous aggregation. Is that what this is?
I don't know, that's why we needed Amy here, because Amy's the one that does the reporting.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Yeah, but I didn't know we had any like extra credits right now. As far as I know, they're all being applied to our bills.
I thought that was an offer of an additional.
Right, this was, I thought, something in addition to, because it was more than what we, Amy said she's trying to get into the Zoom.
Okay. Well, we'll table that for right now until Amy can join us.
You may need to let them in if they're in as a
Yeah.
participant.
I'm not actually seeing any indications that there's anybody trying to get in.
Okay.
Let's see, is there anyone pending? Participants. Full attendee list.
See, I would be bamboozled with this.
Allowed to talk? Jason, can you hear us? Hello. Sorry about that. I'm going to put you right by the microphone here. All right. Thank you for hooking me up there. Can you see us all right?
Yep.
All right. So Amy, what can you tell us about the 60K?
The 60K, I can tell you, right now, all my paperwork is at work. But I believe we only have about 38K that would be available for credits.
So Amy, let's start at the beginning. Where did these funds come from? Is this a special allocation, or is it something that we've earned?
We get solar credits each month from AMP.
And what's AMP?
The solar company that we pay each month to get the credits.
So this is part of the power purchase agreement, right? Assuming?
I don't think the 60.
As opposed to the 1 cent,
The adder?
the adder.
Okay,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
not the
different.
adder.
Adder is totally different.
All right, so this is something that's coming to us from our solar provider.
I don't know where the 60,000, Amy didn't know where the 60,000 originally came from that you guys were talking about. It sounded like they're new
Oh, the
credits.
additional?
Somebody just said, oh, he was from Hampshire Power Company, and he said they had 60,000 credits that were up for grabs, and he wanted to see if we wanted to use them, if we could use them.
Right.
And I said, I have no idea.
And what Amy's saying is that there's only about $68,000 worth of bills right now that it could be applied to. 60,000 would give us way too much.
Okay, but, could we use 30?
I don't know, that would be up to them whether or not we could take a partial.
How long have we been getting these credits, and what's the average?
Of the 60,000?
Yeah.
The 60,000, we don't know, this is all new.
Yeah, the 60,000 is a totally separate outside company from what I'm reading here. It's Hampshire Power that has some net metering credits that were approved by the state of Massachusetts. And they're asking if we would like to have these credits assigned to us.
This sounds an awful lot like a solicitation of services.
Yep.
That is what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we've got these renewable energy credits that we'd like to sell you.
I'm sure they're not free.
No. Okay, that would be,
Because right now we have AMP, which is the one that we're buying the solar credits from now,
right.
that are being applied to our bills currently.
Because we had, okay, I need to go back on that, but when I left,
Yeah.
we had power purchase agreements that were in place. The school had one, we had two, I believe, that were there, that we were doing renewable energy through, I think it was a solar farm, one was down on
Yes.
Plymouth
Joe-
County or something.
Joe
like that.
Jenny?
Yeah, Joe Jenny. All right,
Joe Jenny and Dudley, and
so,
those two are the ones that we consistently get each month.
right, that's because we contract you, right? We actually, we deferred part of the town's energy bill to be covered by these fixed rate.
Who do we get the 2,200 ballpark every quarter?
2,200. You mean the funding?
That's the adder.
That's the adder.
Okay.
So I guess the question I would have for this Hampshire Power Company is, first of all, I don't necessarily, it sounds like they're adding urgency to this to try to get us to,
I told him we couldn't make a decision unilaterally.
The first question I would ask is, so
How much?
what exactly are you proposing? You know, send us your proposal and, you know, we'll evaluate it. Because my guess is,
That's what I told him.
yeah, my guess is they're gonna say, yeah, we'd like to provide the town $11 billion worth of power, you know, so, and if that's the case, that might be a strong thanks but no thanks, because I don't know what our current, I haven't looked at our current power consumption, but
Yeah, I haven't either.
we had, so I remember the last time I looked at this school had done a power purchase agreement and actually had taken into account some of our allocation
Yes.
of electricity, and it was getting a little bit hairy that we had actually already purchased close to the energy that we conceivably would use. So we want to be very careful about before entering into any additional contract like that we know.
We can't fulfill.
Yeah, because we don't want to buy power that we can't use, and then I don't know what we would even do with it.
But that brings up the power for the highway barn.
It does. So that would be the same consideration that, you know, if we're doing potentially a managed solar distribution on the highway barn, we have to make sure that whatever they put in there still fits underneath our total energy cap so that we're not producing more energy that's unnecessary. I mean, we can always find ways to use it. I mean, that might be a good way to electrify the fleet, do other things like that, but we want to be very careful.
Well, you want to do it in a controlled manner.
Right, you don't want to go, I'm going to willy-nilly electrify the fleet because I've got tons of extra power floating around that I bought for the wrong reasons, so.
So I can tell you, Hampshire Power, I just did a little search on them. They sell
Yeah,
energy. They're a company. They're a business. So they're trying to sell
They're
us
trying to
net
sell
metering
us.
credits.
yeah, that's my take. Because Hampshire Power, I think, is like southern New Hampshire and northern Worcester County.
They do sell to some municipalities. It looks like they had some quotes on here from a few other, like a housing authority. Let's see, Barry Housing Authority
Yeah.
uses
they're-
them. But I mean, they work with anybody. They've got private sector, insurance companies, a liquor company, HVAC, you know, basically they'll work with anyone to try to sell them those, you know, net metering credits. So I imagine that's a PPA kind of situation.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Okay, but now where do we stand with the power purchase agreement for the town barn?
So I was just gonna ask if I could give you an update on that. Perfect. So we've signed a letter of intent with a company named Solect, S-O-L-E-C-T, to have them go and basically say that we would like to negotiate a power purchase agreement with them, which gives them the authorization to go to the state and seek credits, basically the rebate credits that they can achieve. Once they get an award from the state or an amount that they're able to get, the letter of intent says they have 45 days to give us a price, and then we enter into a negotiation back and forth on the power purchase agreement. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now because it depends on the state getting back to Select on the availability of those rebates.
Okay. And if I remember what Peg sent over a few moons ago, this was going to be a roof mount, is that correct, on the actual barn, or what did we
I
decide?
think there was some discussion as to whether it was gonna go up on the roof, there would be like almost like a carport or a solar array
Okay.
somewhere on the
Okay.
land, because there was a question of could the roof hold?
Exactly,
The
that's what I was
panels.
getting at. Because the
Yeah.
last time we looked at this, and this was a while ago, 2 building inspectors ago, but there was concern that when the panels were originally taken off the design of the town barn, they also subsequently downgraded the structural of the roof to no longer be built for that load. And if they're doing that, that would be something to consider. One of the things we talked about at the time was, and this was back when Dave was still here, potentially an awning, because that would provide additional covered storage for equipment in buildings. So if they're amicable to that, that's another thing that would benefit DPW to store
I do
some.
know that the new building inspector did go down and he did confirm that it was okay to use it on the roof.
Okay. Yeah, that, I mean, all due respects to the building inspectors, before I collapsed the town barn in a snow event, I just as soon have a PE take a look at it. I mean, it's probably fine, but given the stakes.
I was just concerned with him saying it was okay after realizing that they had said, I thought at the time, when they
Yeah.
cut back on the cost.
They cut
it
back on the
could
roof.
not.
Yeah.
That was,
But-
yeah, that's when Judy was here.
And that's what I thought too, but
That's
I
what
want
she
to say
said.
when I double checked with Margaret about it, she said that they had checked into it and it was okay, but again,
Second opinion doesn't hurt.
yeah.
But if you're doing a PPA with these guys, I guarantee you they're gonna bring in C&E film.
I-
to-
for
I
some
was just
reason,
gonna say, it
we-
was part of the letter of intent that we gave them authorization as part of the process to go in
To do a site
and
survey.
check out the site and make sure that everything was okay structurally, et cetera, for this type of project.
Because
So,
from a commercial entity standpoint,
that's a huge liability for
Right.
them.
same thing, you know, if they pancake the roof, it's all done. They're the last one to
Then we
touch it.
have to move.
And I know that they were trying to look at other spots in town too, to potentially put it there, but like the dump being one, but I don't think the dump is capped, so you can't put it there, and, you know, there's a,
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past too. It's kind of a don't ask, don't tell. We're just gonna leave that piece of land alone and never,
Yep.
never speak of it again.
So if I may, I can give you the exact language in the LOI. It says, Select acknowledges that the host makes no representations regarding the suitability of the site for the project, and therefore Select may, at its expense, assess the suitability of the host premises for the project. To do so, the host agrees to make available to Select for inspection records in the host's possession, we are the host, regarding the physical condition of the premises, including the building and rooftop, and they may at their expense perform engineering, design, site, or structural analysis, excluding intrusive or destructive tests or inspections. And let's see, that's pretty much that.
That sounds pretty boilerplate to what I've done before. The destructive piece, they're just looking, you know, if they've got termites or something like that. They're probably just gonna go through there and look at the actual, I don't know if it's steel or wood, but, you know, look at the way it's designed off the plans and do do an analysis of roof load.
Would we be able to get a copy of their report?
So it actually says that if during the performance of such assessment, if they discover any condition that in their judgment would prevent the successful completion of the project, they will advise us. I'm sure we could negotiate that as part of the PPA and put that in there. But that's basically going to determine whether or not we can even enter into an agreement.
Yeah.
And it says right here that the town select or the town may terminate this letter and have no further obligations should they discover something, or the town even, that prevents this from moving forward. So nothing is obligated right now by any means. This is just a letter of intent saying we want to move forward and explore that project.
Do we have a sense of the size of the installation? Was it designed to completely offset the town barn? Something additional beyond that, or?
Do you know the answer to that, June? Okay.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, because that would be something we want to, and Amy, I don't know if you're still with us, but we're going to have to pull all of the energy consumption at some point and figure out what we've allocated to PP, Power Purchase Agreement, PPA, and what we got left over. Because like I said, we don't want to enter into an agreement.
I actually started doing it all today, even though I didn't know this was tonight.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
That's okay. That's all right.
All right.
So,
Cool.
So in my experience, the goal of a power purchase agreement is to basically make your national grid bill zero, and you're actually paying the company. We did this a lot in my previous town. So that will all be negotiated once they determine the rebates that they can get from the state as they figure out what the pricing is. So that's part of that PPA. And what I would recommend is when we get the power purchase agreement, obviously it's going to go through legal, like to have it go through this committee as well.
Yeah. And the PPAs that we've done in the past have been designed to protect us against periods like we're in right now with National Grid, what was it, 62% window rate increase with a standard escalator year over year. So we locked in those, gosh, 4 years ago now, maybe some of those?
Probably, well, when you were last around, I was first on the board, yeah.
Because I think Tom may have actually did it even before
something.
you. And
Yeah,
this
it would
is
be
your
about 4
second
years
term,
ago,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So some of those agreements are, I bet we're 5 to 6 years into a 10-plus year
Yeah,
contract.
and we're going through Colonial, and we're still with Colonial.
Yeah, that's the aggregation.
Yeah.
So, okay. So on this one, so I guess the takeaway from this is we've entered into a letter of agreement. Is it Select?
Select.
Select, Select has been given authorization by us to represent themselves to the state on our behalf.
Correct.
They are going to be going out and seeking to receive credits.
They call them smart incentives.
Yeah, okay, so that's probably the SREC program from the state, which is, I think, being phased out unless it's been replaced. Have you heard of that?
Says they're available on a first come, first served basis, so the rate is subject to the approved incentive.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
I
that
don't know
means
what it
it's being renewed or not, I'm not sure.
I would be
Is
surprised.
there any time that you expect them to answer?
I can say that the state is slow, so we haven't been given a specific time frame, but I can reach out to see what the average response time from them
Okay.
has been in general with other towns or companies that they've worked with.
Okay.
It is, election time, so I imagine the state is crawling.
Different parts.
So what else do we need to do with this one? It sounds like we're in a waiting period
We're in a
for
holding pattern.
Select to do their due diligence. So is it fair to say that at some point, probably in the winter, maybe late fall, we will be getting a request to do that due diligence, civil engineering kind of survey? And
I would say correct, and I don't know, depending on how long it takes, I mean, we're already into October. We may be looking at something after,
Could be in the spring.
in the spring, because we're getting into winter weather at this point, so.
Yeah, but that's when they usually do all the paperwork.
Yep.
Yeah, so they don't have to do they do construction during.
Right.
Their job's staged for,
But if they need to get up there and do any kind of assessments, they may not have time to do that before winter is my only thing, so
Yeah.
they may be doing that in the spring.
That's
Is that a
when
metal
you use
roof?
drone.
True.
Huh?
is that a metal roof or bituminous? Does it have shingles or metal? It doesn't matter.
I can't remember.
I'm just wondering
That I don't know.
if it's gonna be fun for them in the winter or not.
But I will reach out and just kind of get an average response time
Just to
from
get
the
a
state.
ballpark.
Because that's the other consideration that I would ask of them is, say the structural is great and we can put it on the roof. We want to make sure that we know the condition of the roof, because
Yeah.
roofing around a giant solar array can be an additional expense and a big pain in the butt.
Mhm.
We don't want, I don't know, that's a new building, we shouldn't be talking about new roof anytime soon.
Right.
We've been wrong before.
We've been wrong, we've been hurt before.
Mhm. Okay, so is that topic done?
Anything else on that? Jason, I think you can talk now. Anything you want to add? Hopefully, is she on? Well, yeah, he's on, okay. All right, let's see, what else do we have? We have green community discussion, we talked about the town barn park purchase.
Next, we had green community grant discussion.
Okay, so the last that I was aware of that one, CMRPC was kind of wanting to get in touch with us, is
Yes.
that's fair?
So Ian McElwee did reach out to me from CMRPC. He is our Green Communities person. In my former community, he was as well. So I've worked with him for a number of years, which is great. He wanted to set up something for later on this year to be ready for the next round.
Yeah.
So he didn't seem in a super urgent rush to do it, but I did reach out, reach back to him and say, absolutely, let me know some dates and times and we'll get the committee together and.
So, I'm sorry. I
No,
interrupted you.
that's fine. Oh, it was done. No problem.
So CMRPC is functioning as our agent, right?
Right,
Not
so,
the overseer of the program.
no, the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission basically applies and oversees the program, and they get to keep the administrative funds that come from the program.
All right, because last time I was here,
I believe it's still Kelly Brown.
was it Kelly?
She's at the state level.
Yeah,
Yep, she
okay.
actually administers
Because
it.
we didn't have CMRPC at all the administration, all of that was done by
We
us.
handled it
Oh,
all.
it was done by here,
By
okay.
me.
Oh, by you? Oh, okay. So is this new then,
This
getting
is
CMRPC involved?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is all new for me, it's not new to the board here, but, yeah, we
As
did all
you
the.
know, it's a tremendous amount of work with MEI and getting all
We
of the
did
information
MI,
in.
we did the
and-
annual reports, we did all that.
It's a lot. So
Yeah.
what we elected to do in Leicester was we had CMRPC actually do that. They took the small administrative fee
Okay,
and they handled the reporting, all of the data entry from the utilities and everything, and wrote the grant, and we just basically provided information as they needed it.
Amy and I did a lot of that before, so.
Well, if you want to do it again.
No, I really don't.
Okay.
So, as far as MEI,
Mhm.
do we have those reports? Do we have access to those reports? Because I'd love to see
Probably an Amy.
what they're doing.
Amy, the MEI.
Do you have
reports.
MEI reports or?
What is that?
It's a reporting system on like utility usage. for
It's the monthly
buildings
thing
and-
that Amy took over
Yeah, it's-
from
Judy.
Judy.
Yeah, it's a Tableau report that you put in.
So that we know
All
our
the usage of
usage.
gallons and.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all your
Yes,
oil.
Yes,
propane.
Amy has that, yes.
Because that's the basis for, actually, this is another question. Have we filled out
Yes.
a Green Communities report? Are we current?
Yeah,
We
ask
are-
Amy.
To the best of my knowledge, we are current, but we utilize CMRCP.
Okay, so CMRPC probably submitted it on our behalf. Do we know how we're doing against our goals? Have we
I have no idea.
gone up, gone down, gone sideways? Okay, so that would be all information that we should probably pick up at some point to know how we're doing.
Okay, usually they send out all sorts of information about, these are the grants that are available and this is the timeline, and they didn't do that this year.
We are early for the next round, we are late for the current round.
Yeah, I think,
That's the issue.
I
think
know,
he said
but
some.
I didn't even see anything that said what they were willing to give money for. Usually we'd get a document
menu.
and we'd say, maybe we do need a charging
I see what you're
station.
So it's
'Cause-
usually based on what your priority list, has in it, whether it's weatherization or lighting or what have you. That's a lot of what I'm familiar with doing.
So, some history behind that.
Mhm.
We have done most of the lighting in the school
Okay.
and here. We have weatherized this building.
Okay.
We have weatherized the school. We have a building controls system
Okay.
in this building as well as the school. My guess is that that is probably not operational right now.
If we're judging by how cold my office is, my guess is no.
There were a lot of issues with that control thing, maybe being overly candid, but we did that probably before we knew what we were doing. We had we got out ahead of our headlights a little bit on that one, in the sense that there were needs and probably things that needed to be addressed before we did the buildings controls. Like, this is ancient history again, it's been a while since I've been on the board, but we had
But a lot of the,
the
some of
controls, yeah.
the controls were put in backwards.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like, for example, this is a boiler system, and there's two flavors of the control circuitry. One is based off of amperage current, the other one is based off of voltage. We had a mix of those two, and some of them were wired for amps when they were supposed to be volts, and vice versa. So when the control system would send a signal,
It couldn't
they'd
read
go,
it.
I don't know what to do with it, man, I'll just stay open. Because that's what I do. You don't want me to close, so I'll stay open. And that's something that
Greg
Greg
Tremelling
was very
was a
good.
god on that.
Yeah, that was what he did for me, so he did that a lot, but.
Older buildings are tricky too, especially when you're trying to install modern systems and controls and some of the,
Well, the school was built in 1999.
I'm thinking that this building.
Yeah, well, this is a little bit of a Franken building.
Yes.
In the nicest sense, I mean that, but it was a conversion, and like one of the complaints that we had before was that like the extreme end of the police, where the holding cells are, we're getting to the point where it was extremely cold in the winter, like not fit for human being cold in the winter. And that was partially because the way that the run was designed, that was the absolute end of the heating loop. So it had expended all of its energy heating the whole rest of that wing of the building, and then it got to the end and there was, it was room temperature.
Yeah, we're still working on bugs,
Is
it's
it
still not fixed.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is some offices are very, very hot and some are very, very cold.
Yeah,
So
and
is that?
And you
And
can't
part of
make it
it
work.
is financially, they only had one pipe, and you can't do one pipe, and you can't send cold air through it at the same time you're taking hot air out.
yeah.
It just
Usually
doesn't work.
The other thing that we should be doing, that for various reasons we're not, and there's sound reasons, but most buildings like this will, in the wintertime, do a pretty extreme setback on temperature. I was on this board in Chelmsford for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and for example, the school there, which is much larger than this building, we would actually turn the heat down to 52 degrees at night.
Oh.
Okay? And the conventional wisdom is, well, I don't want to do that because it takes a long time to recharge, and I've got early birds into the office, and I don't want them to be cold, and blah, 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 blah. And those are all valid. But the reality of the situation is these buildings tend to be efficient enough that they can come up to heat pretty fast. And if you set the setback to like 4 a.m. or something like that, Even
Right.
if you've got an early bird that comes in at 6, in 2 hours, the building is gonna be heated to the point of being comfortable.
Yeah, if you
And
have
you
those
can shut it
controls.
off at 9 AM because, once again, it's not 9 PM because it's not gonna freeze down at 9:01.
Right. These are concrete block buildings, you've got embedded heat in here that isn't
Right.
gonna go away. And there was also concerns like, we had some meetings, some
They had
employees
motion detectors.
that were
in the
going
rooms.
late. So effectively what happened was we condensed the time where it started, the return on it wasn't very good.
Okay,
But those were all adjustable once you know what the run-of-the-mill is.
right,
And with the heating system that we got with the controls, you could fine tune it, which we never could before.
And that also goes to some of the capital planning requests that were put in there. Again, I'm out of date, and I clearly acknowledge this, but we had an engineering study done that gave the effective engineered lifespan of some of the major equipment on this building and others. And we were approaching the end of those lifespans on many systems
Okay.
in this building.
That's why the roof, it's the roof and the
Air
air
handler.
handler. And the air handler, there were 2 upstairs and 1 is dead.
Yeah, and that's why, because we knew that was coming, it was getting to that point. And part of the reason why you can't do things like a setback like that is when
The
we,
equipment was old.
it was old and it would freeze up, literally freeze up. And now you have no heat. So at the time, it was Dave Smith, he's like, listen, I have a choice to make here. I can either try to do these setbacks, or I can be called in at 5 o'clock in the morning on a regular basis to try to get heat back on in the building, or deal with a potential frozen pipe situation.
right.
So it was a no-brainer. I mean, I completely understand why you'd make that choice. But the end result is, this is kind of the cascading effect of not being able to
It's not.
solve our issues. It's not efficient. We could be doing better with what we have, but in order to do that, we need to think through our systems, how our systems work together. That's
Mhm.
another issue that we have, is when some of these systems were engineered, actually, I'll take a step back. We're reaching the point where we're reaching the end of the lifespan of the systems. When we do replacements,
Mhm.
we're going to want to have a consolidated plan of because I know Berlin's not gonna suddenly drop $1 million and replace all of the HVAC in this building all at once, right? We're gonna do it in a stepwise manner, and we're gonna do it one piece at a time. That may take place over a 5-year plan, perhaps longer, which is fine. But if you do that 5-year plan, you gotta make sure that each one of those pieces, as you bring them in, will work together and that they'll remain functional. Because the last thing we want is to replace the air handler, which doesn't interface with our control system, or
Right.
doesn't interface with something else down the line. So we want to be very,
We actually ran into that problem.
right, we want to be mindful about how we do that. One of the areas we could look at is this is something that we likely need professional help with.
Mhm.
This is an engineering discipline in its own right, and I think asking me or any of our team to do that it's a lot, right? So,
Yeah.
so maybe we want to look at a formulation of a plan and say, okay, we have this need, how do we go about doing it? What's the correct way to do this, and how can we do this in conjunction with capital planning to do this right without.
Would that be part of the building assessment?
I think it would be. Like I said, we did an engineering assessment on this place through Green Community Grant dollars. So that's another way we can, we should use the money that we spent. And at the time, it was almost every system was flirting with its engineered life. And meanwhile, 4 years have gone by, and I'm sure that,
Other things.
Yeah,
It
we're having
hasn't
a lot
gotten a
of
whole lot
problems
better.
getting it serviced now.
yeah.
Did that
We're
assessment
having a
make,
lot of problems getting it serviced.
did that assessment make recommendations on what those upgrades should be so that they sync together like you're mentioning?
No.
Okay.
That was done through, oh gosh, this has been a while. Their purpose was, the nature of the report was okay, we got a green community grant. Here are the systems that exist in your building. Here's what you could potentially save for your green communities program, you know, your targets of reduction.
Okay.
And here's the biggest bang for your buck. And most of the heavy equipment, the stuff that was, you know, like the air handlers, they have very little incremental gains on efficiency. They're
Right.
simple things. They're an electric motor with a pulley and spins a big fan, right? There's not much you can improve on that. But it's still something that needs to be maintained and eventually replaced. So we looked at it at the time from, okay, what could we queue up for future green community grant proposals? And most of these, the return was so low that if we put it into Kelly, we didn't have.
She wouldn't approve it.
She wouldn't approve it. So it was a combination of, it was a little bit of a catch-22 that we couldn't necessarily make serious inroads on some of our goals or do some of the things we wanted to do from an efficiency standpoint
Okay.
until we got these big blocks out of the way, but we couldn't get the big rocks out of the way because,
Yeah.
okay. The other thing, as kind of a historical thing, the community aggregation, which we just entered into, I think, through 2024 on the current contract. And is the adder still
Is it
going?
December of '24, like end of
I think it's November.
November?
Yeah,
I don't know.
usually National Grid does their
Yeah.
changeover November 1 and then I think April 1.
So we put, was it 1/10 of a penny? I can't remember what it was.
I believe so.
It's going between 2/10 and 1/10. But it was a way to build, and we established a fund for
A
these-
revolving account
revolving
for
Our
it.
stabilization
Yeah,
fund for
thank you.
energy.
That's the word I was looking for. We did have a stabilization fund.
And every month we get a payment for the adder and it goes in
Yeah,
there.
and that went through town meeting 3 years ago, 4 years, 2-3 years ago.
And that's because a lot of the
I
new
think they
energy
finished
grants, they
something
want
to
you
get
to pay
on
5%,
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
And we felt with
No,
the
that was
adder,
the,
people it might be more palatable to the residents if we said, you know, we'll take it out of.
That was our seed
Stabilization.
money for some of these grants. That one of the things we've run into a couple times is you need to do an engineering analysis to qualify for a grant. In order to get an engineering analysis,
You need money.
You need money, or you need to have a friendly PE who's on your board, which I am not. Your plans for you.
Right.
And that was something, again, going back to ancient history in Chelmsford, we had a PE on our board.
Oh, wow.
So he was an HVAC PE, so he just went through and all our grant applications, he put a stamp on it and saved tens of thousands, but we didn't have
Oh,
that
yeah.
luxury. But that was the reason behind the adder, and to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. So that has been accruing over several years at this point. I'm not aware of what's in there, but it's probably not insubstantial at this point, certainly enough to.
And we've never spent from it.
We've never taken a dime out of it as far as.
Okay.
No. And that's part of the things, we had never intended for that to be used for like capital expenditures. We didn't see that as our role or.
Well, we had no idea how much are you talking about?
Right. You know, that, if you're gonna do air handler, that shouldn't be your energy committee does that, that should be through capital planning and through the actual capital allocation project. Our purposes behind that were, again, that seed money, or potentially if we wanted to do something that had an energy conservation component to it that we didn't qualify for green community.
Right.
We could use those funds, and all we had to do at that point is go to town meeting and say what we were using for, or say it was coming out of our funds and that no allocation was going to the taxpayer and, you know, get the vote. So we've never done that, but it's there.
Okay.
What else?
I think she went to gather some data.
Can I ask a quick question
Sure.
about the CEA? So Lester did this a few years ago as well, and it was an automatic opt-in unless you opted out,
Correct.
but you could opt in and opt out at any time
This is true.
Correct, at no cost.
at no cost.
That's exactly the way it works. here.
So the reason I'm asking is this something that could be publicized as rates are going up 60 some odd
They're supposed
percent?
to be sending out a
Yes.
postcard
Okay,
telling people, that's why I gave you the letter, so
Yep.
that you could put it on site.
Right, but I was wondering if folks knew, existing folks now know they're locked in, but do folks who maybe opted out initially or were with another
Yeah.
company know they can come in now?
We've had this conversation historically in the public square.
Okay.
Whether it's on Facebook or whatever, there's been a couple of times when that's come out. And I think there is this idea that once you're locked in, you're in. And what I was trying to get out there is, hey, you can bounce next month.
Right, there's no penalty.
There's no penalty, there's nothing, and it makes perfect sense for individuals to potentially use it in the winter,
Right.
when the rates go up.
Right.
You know, that's part of what, I mean, the town bears a little bit of brunt, and the way that our aggregation has worked in the past is we typically make our hay in the winter.
Oh, absolutely.
Like by a lot, and then when we, you know, slightly underrun in the summer, we offset it by gobs after the rate increase goes up.
Right.
And we're gonna kill it this year with that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we've always done our rates so that they were under national grid at the time we did it.
Yeah.
And see, as the town clerk, I get the copy of the national grid rates because they want to hold a public hearing in Boston. So I'm usually aware, and if we're gonna have a meeting, I bring those things to the board.
Perfect.
End of June, you had 56,000.
56,000. Okay, so, cool.
How much did you say?
56K.
Well, I need it for the minutes.
Well, speaking of minutes, do we have any legacy minutes that need to be approved, or is that to this point?
Probably, but right now I'm in election mode.
Okay.
And I think the thing with the opt-in and out, one of the last things that Margaret had said to the committee was, you need to get information out there, make it clear, make it simple, because unfortunately this is stupid. Oh my God, how do I get out? Oh my God, open up your bill. So it was like,
Yeah, they opted me in and that
Right.
violates my rights. You have some people
Well,
who felt
correct,
that
so
way.
it's.
There's also, I'm sorry.
No, so I'm just saying that, you know, as this comes around, you all know about it, you understand it, if there's any way that it could be presented to the community to say, this is what it means, this is what it does, you're in, blah, 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 you're out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, you opened up your electric bill and it's $8 bazillion? We suggest you walk back in.
Yeah.
Correct. And this is how you do that.
The other thing.
I've actually gotten a couple of inquiries on who the town is using currently and how can they sign up.
I've
So
gotten
it's already started.
2 in our
Yeah.
office in the last week, and now that this is
Yeah, people
broadly
are freaking
announced,
out.
I'm expecting to
Yeah.
see like the waves of people coming into town hall going,
When they get their first
Well, they put
electric
it
bill
on
in
the
winter,
town's
they will.
website,
Come
right on the
over.
front page.
Well, one thing, in my experience, is people have a distorted view of what their electric bill actually is. They have this in their mind of, oh, I only pay $85, and then when they get a, you know, $150 or $200 bill,
something's wrong.
oh, well, no, really, if you look back at your history, you've been creeping up for a while, or you know, that jacuzzi you put in just doubled your energy, you know, things like that that also happen. So sometimes you gotta be a little bit careful of setting the correct expectations with them.
Or you're also looking at sometimes National Grid will do estimated for months and then do an actual, I've
Or
seen
true.
that happen before.
And they will
Yeah.
still up there the other factors that make up your bill.
Mhm.
Because we're only talking supply.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other piece of it. Fully half of your bill is the transport of the electricity.
Right, the
And
service piece can,
People go bonkers over that, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it.
Well, we
That's said.
can, but it's illegal.
Well, it's,
Just
Glad
like,
you clarified that, Eloise.
that's right. We don't want to do anything with that. So anyway, but yeah, that's a possibility. The municipal, also, I think we're running 50%. I looked it up. I think we're 50% renewable energy. So, and when that comes up, we have gone historically. Yeah, I looked it up. We were 100% wind renewable energy credits beforehand, but also some history just for the background. The first, oh gosh, when was Judy doing this? The first probably 3 contract terms were for 6 months. So Judy, at the time, was opting to go short duration. to try to get people accustomed to this and also to
They
limit
just
risk.
had better rates.
Yeah, I think she was trying to limit risk a little bit.
Mhm.
And then, like, the one that just expired before this one was the first time that I was aware of anyway, that we went for a full 3-year plan, and then this latest one we did 3-year too. So we've kind of transitioned away from those short-term rates to longer ones. Clearly, based off the last one and even this one, that was a good move. And that's what Colonial actually recommended. I think at the time, we chose not to just because it was new and there was a certain risk aversion that we didn't want to get in the situation where we lock in this aggregation rate and it doesn't pan out, right? That people would be better off on the standard rate. And so far, that almost never happens except in those summertime, sometimes springtime rate change type of things. But if you look at the report as it's issued, I mean, in aggregate, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars over better than the standard rate. And I think of what, 13 cents, 12.9, something like that is what we locked at, which is going to be way, way better than what they're offering this week.
It's already better than what the summer rate was from National Grid, which was 14 cents.
So we're doing pretty well on that. And yeah, we should be encouraging our community members to opt in. And I think there's like something like 900 meters that are already in, close to 1,000 meters that are already in. So there's a lot of people who were opted in back in the beginning and just never changed.
There for a while, we did have people opting out.
We did.
A very strong,
Yeah.
Well,
because I was getting notified like almost every day of the people that were
Yeah.
signing up.
It got,
It's actually though nothing now.
it was very trendy for a moment.
It was weird, yeah.
It was like all of a sudden there was this group of people that all decided, okay, I'm out of here. And then it kind of got a little bit of
Yeah.
momentum to it.
Yeah, we saw that happen as well.
But, I mean, and we should publish that on, speaking of the webpage, do we know the logins and stuff that for the,
I don't have anything to do with the bed smearing.
Funny you should mention that.
Be careful.
We did put some of that information up on the website, and I believe Mary put it up on your page as well. I can check.
okay.
If there's something specific, what I'm asking is, if you want a specific wording, language, posting, send it to our office,
Okay.
and we can get it up there.
I used to have access to it.
Or if you want to do it, that's great. Absolutely okay with that.
If you remember what
Chances
your
are,
stuff was,
it
it
hasn't
may still
changed.
work.
Well,
I don't think anyone's locked you out.
oh gosh, I don't know if I can still remember but
You
that would
could
be,
probably do a reset password
if
thing.
they could reset my password.
I think you might be able to do it, like you type in forgot password kind of thing.
Okay.
But I can do it if that doesn't work.
Because a lot of the information that's on the energy committees in the webpage is stuff I put up. So,
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking at it going, okay, that's
It's a little outdated.
Yeah.
Well, and we're happy to help where we can, but I can't promise that it will be extraordinarily timely. So
No.
if it's something that you're
No.
able to help with, you can probably get it up even faster than we
I'm
can.
more than willing to do it myself. And there was also, at one point, there was an email address as well, energycom@townofberlin.com.
I assume you still have it.
Okay.
I think that
I
is
don't-
still there, and those, I
It's the
think that's
key
the email
contact
that
is the
came to
energy
me.
committee.
Yeah, I have no
Energy
idea.
committee?
I got an email
You
that
click on
came
it,
to
it's a
energy
type link.
committee,
Yeah.
that came to me last week,
If
and I
that
had
bot-
Mary forward it on. It was somebody who was asking
We're
about
finding
the
somebody that
CEA,
can-
and
Because
that's what I
means-
went and asked you for the information.
That box could be, I mean, I left 2 or 3 years ago, and I was the only one monitoring that.
And
Oh,
I
okay.
never checked that.
That's why I think it somehow got forwarded to the town admin email,
Yeah.
and I could tell you,
It's probably full.
at least since I started, that's the only one I've received.
The
But that's
email
also
you could
3 weeks, so I
probably-
can't speak
Because-
for an extended period of time.
Because we had, there was tons of documentation on Google Drive from the Energy Committee. I actually copied a lot of that documentation into that email folder to make sure that it didn't get lost, so hopefully that's still,
I bet I have access to that Google Drive and that email address. I can check it out.
okay. Because to that point, there are a lot of reports in there. There are past documentation that we did, closeout reports, reports that were done on our behalf of potential jobs. And that would be something, I know CMRPC wants to talk to us about this, but we should be thinking about what shovel-ready jobs could we have for the next funding cycle? Because my guess is, if the committee's been dormant, semi-dormant anyway, or if we
It's
have,
been doing
and we haven't had a grant
The last one.
issued to us in several years,
Mhm.
we're gonna be very high on the list of getting
it, yes.
the grant. Kelly does try to
Spread the wealth.
spread the
Well,
jelly
if, the
around.
way they're working it now, if you got a grant last year, you're not eligible this year. There has to be a 1-year grace period at least.
Okay.
And that'll cover the pool, and then,
Yeah, well, one of the things Tom Galvin, the former police chief, wanted was the energy plug-ins
Yeah.
for a car. And we had talked about doing an energy plug-in for the police, and then maybe having one at the school.
yeah. That's,
Did you just put something up on the website or no?
no ma'am.
Because there is something new here.
Mary put something
Mary
up.
put it up.
As of September
Yeah, she
27th.
sent
because
an
it has
email.
to do with the new rates and supplier and that type of stuff. so
All
it's
your
there.
quarterly reports are in the Google Drive. If you go to your page, I will
Oh,
tell you
good.
that the last one stops. There's 18, 19, 20, and the last one is 2021 Q1.
And Amy said that she's sending all the information over to Ian, she thinks his name is,
Okay.
at
Ian?
Central Mass.
Oh,
Ian.
Ian.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was I gonna ask?
Who's Ian?
CMRPC guy, right?
Oh,
Yes.
well, we always asked in the past, if you send it to one, send it to all. If somebody wants to delete it, be my guest, but meanwhile, everybody's getting caught up with the same information.
So do you want it to be sent out to all of you? We didn't have a committee. for
I
last
think
time.
so.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt. And once we get MEI, we can start looking at focus areas.
Mhm.
I have no idea where we are against our baseline. Our baseline was 2012,
Mhm.
so we've been at this for 10 years and we haven't hit it yet.
Well, and I can say from my experience, Kelly is really helpful too with culling and identifying projects and saying, look at your rate of return, based on MEI, this would be good, this one not so good. This year we're focusing on weatherization or we're focusing on whatever, and she can kind of help guide
Mostly
it.
the heating systems,
Yep.
because that's the biggest dollar amount.
That and vehicles.
And,
Yep.
yeah,
Especially with the increase in gas prices that we're down again, but if you look overall,
and the town has been getting more vehicles.
the town's been getting more vehicles.
When we first did it, we had one ambulance. We didn't have the COA vehicle.
Okay.
I think we've picked up an extra
Yeah,
police cruiser.
we have, yeah, I think so.
Oh, and tell him about the bucket truck.
Oh, yes, we have the bucket truck.
Good.
We have an IMA that has been approved by both Clinton and Berlin. It has been signed by our board. We are waiting for it to be picked up and signed by Clinton's board, but they've already approved it. Unfortunately, there was an issue with the way it was built.
The bucket truck is?
The bucket truck has an issue. The builder has come out. He has reviewed it. I can give you the specifics if you want, but I will have to pull up my email because that's a little bit above my knowledge base. That's a valve issue of some sort.
As long as it won't fall over.
It's
No, the
fully,
line kept blowing.
no, it's fully covered under warranty and being repaired, but that's why it's not in service yet.
What is the anticipated purpose for the bucket truck? Is it tree trimming? Is it lights? Is it whatever
Yep.
they need it to go up for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, all of the above.
Well,
Right.
Tim's the one that oversaw the lighting, changing our lighting to,
I don't, not
The
that
different
I'm aware of.
bulbs.
and the one thing we never had was a contract
Well, that was-
with who would repair it.
That was the whole point of those things, that we weren't supposed to replace them.
I don't know if there's any special training that has to be done for, and I don't want to necessarily suggest that highway should do it, but once you have a bucket truck, you do have the capability to do that work. I can tell you, you can also contract out. There are companies that will come in and replace lights that are
Yeah.
out. Arden is one of them. You know, you can have them do it on a case-by-case basis.
You know, in our
But-
case, we had been talking to Boylston Municipal Electric.
Okay,
We actually got to the point where, yeah, this is no big deal for us. We have less than 100 lights,
oh, okay.
okay? I need to put this into scope for you. There are
Thank you.
almost no street lamps in the town of Berlin.
No streetlights and no drive-throughs.
That's
Got it.
right. That is partially by design. But yes. Yeah, I know she's waving the big red cape in front of the bull.
No, I know, I'm sorry.
So
I'm a bit of a Starbucks junkie,
There-
so
there
I
are-
apologize.
still 2 street lamps that didn't get changed. One of them was across the street.
Oh, they didn't get turned over to LED?
Long story.
We don't own.
Don't own all of them,
Yeah.
okay.
There's another thing that were done on the street lamps. They were equipped with
A dimmer.
Dimulator was actually the name of it.
Dimulators, I've heard of those, yes.
And that was not something we could take advantage of at the time. There was going to be a separate rate plan issued for street lamps that were equipped with those.
Yep, because they can be more energy efficient.
Yeah, they reduced by 50% from like 11 PM to 6 AM or something like that.
Right,
And that's
so they
what
can
we
be
do.
set on a timer.
Yeah, but if National Grid actually implemented that rate plan, and we didn't request to be added to that rate plan, it's possible that we can leave in cash on the table.
Okay,
I don't know, I don't even know if that rate plan exists, but when we were talking to the vendor, it was indicated to us that that was a future thing that he saw as being,
6 to 8 months away.
yeah, imminent.
who is the vendor that you use?
Too long ago. I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, but the person who told us that worked for National Grid, and he would come to our meetings so that National Grid would know what we wanted.
That was through, the street lamps were done through, oh God, what's the other regional planning? The one, the South Shore version of CMRPC.
Oh,
Um,
it's not MAPC, is
It
it?
was MAPC.
Oh, it was MAPC,
Yeah.
okay.
They actually had the state oversight of a bulk purchase.
Yes.
And we participated in that, and we
They
were,
left. 'cause
we were so small, they just kind of had to figure out where we were putting us in there. But we, part of the requirement of participating in that grant program is you need a lighting consultant.
Do you use George Woodbury from Light Smart?
We did.
Good old George.
George
Gotta block out a few hours to talk to George, he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah. George is the one we dealt with, he guided our path, he was the one that suggested the
Simulators, yep. So Lester put those in with George in
I think we did.
18 and 19, I think, is when we
This would
did,
have
or
been the same
19
time,
and
we may have
20.
been in the same peer group.
Okay, it might have been, because we
Yeah.
did MAPC too for some of
Yeah.
the incentive and for the actual to piggyback on their bulk
I think it was
purchase.
Lester, because they had to pair us up with similarly sized communities,
Okay,
so that we can get the bulk purchase type of thing.
and I don't think that they're, because I monitored all the electric bills and the PPAs and all of that, I don't remember there ever being a separate rate that was ever established for dimulators, but I can definitely reach
We
out
should
and
check.
ask. Sure.
And I don't know who's working at National Grid anymore from our community liaison.
I mean, I can reach out even to the contact I have and say, hey, do you know who
'Cause
is
we
the
used to have-
Berlin contact?
We used to have a guy, and one of the things, Peg, you probably remember this, they used to drag him in front of the select board once or twice a year
Mhm.
to,
Do you
Was it Kevin
find,
Shaughnessy?
since we
He
changed
was one of them,
over,
but-
like the street lighting?
Kevin Shaughnessy was like a
bills have
secondary
gone down?
person. I dealt with him like on rebates.
He's moved on to gas, from what I understand. They've moved him to something different,
What was
so.
that guy's name?
I'd have to go back into old minutes.
This is ancient history, but there should be a community relations person
Yep.
that's assigned to Berlin.
I could find out,
And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to
make contact.
bring them in and say, what have you done for us lately?
And what can you do for us?
And what can you do
Yeah.
for us?
They love that.
I mean, that's partially his job, so let's make him do it.
Yep, it's true.
Okay, well, we've blathered for an hour. What else
Okay,
we
do you want to see if Jason has anything else to say?
got? Sure. Jason, are you there? Sir?
Is he muted?
I don't know.
But Mike.
View full attendee list. He has his hand up. Oh God, I got it. Dude, can you hear us now? This poor man's been sitting here for an hour. Can you try?
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh
There
my
he
goodness
is.
gracious. Yes, I'm sorry. You've probably been waiting for like an hour, so we'll just let you talk from now on.
No, I'm just, I was listening. I passed some stuff over to you guys through email as well. And as we were thinking about things and trying to look for some history, there's like the power purchase agreement for the residential side. So we kind of have releases and what we posted initially when we negotiated what looks to be a fairly good rate for the next couple of years based on the recent news, which was nice for everybody. I got my neighbor actually to swap over because he wasn't aware of the PPA. But there's no reason for every resident not to be in it unless you've got solar or something like that at this point and don't need the energy. I also have access to the Energy Committee email.
Excellent.
I found my credentials. I just logged back in, and it is. I cleaned it out about a little better than a year ago, and I just logged back into it while you guys were talking. And there's a whole fresh set of trash and junk mail in there. I'll clean some of that out continually and go through with it. So I don't know if you guys got to the other pieces kind of at the beginning of the agenda. I had been letting Eloise and Peg know that I can't chair the committee anymore, but I would still like to participate in it, especially now based on what I'm hearing. We've got some folks that really understand the space. Admittedly, myself and one of the other gentlemen joined in because there was nobody there, and we thought we'd give it a go to help the town out. And then just a lot of stuff has happened since then that has not allowed me to participate in it and drive it from a chair perspective, but I would still like to be part of the committee, and that'll probably help us from a voting perspective as well. So that said, it's past 8. I know you guys have been meeting for a while. My hope is that the next time, if we can have another scheduled meeting and there's a couple weeks notice, I can get some coverage for the tiny humans and be there in person as well to meet everybody. We don't have to do this hybrid.
And I would just like to apologize. I didn't realize that you had to unmute people individually. I unmuted Amy, and I thought it was an unmute all, so I have to take accountability for you being muted for 55 minutes, so I'm sorry for that.
Don't worry about it, Tim. It's quite all right. Technology is our enemy and our friend. But I was able to hear and listen in so I can understand kind of where we're at with everything. I do know that, so on the net metering thing, the very first topic that we talked about, the 60,000 worth of credits, that's what Colonial came back with. They said they're not sure that we have enough usage in the town accounts to be able to have offsets from, be able to use that much. So it might not be worthwhile for us to purchase it. But whenever we would have something like that come through, I'd always reach out to them first. They do day in and day out, and they know spam from real typically. So they're usually a pretty good source. Might as well have them earn their money. Which the other thing too, the adder is still adding in the new PPA agreement. It is 100% renewable. So we did get 100% renewable contract. I forget it. It's on the flyer. It's 51% like renewable energy credits or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it read, but it is technically considered 100% renewable energy that is also being purchased.
Excellent. And I'm just reading your emails where you're desperately asking me, can you unmute me, please?
not the only one that got him, don't worry.
Yeah.
I think everybody in the room did, so, first couple you can ignore, the other might have some information, in there that could be helpful.
Cool. Again, I'm sorry about that. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. Eloise, you good?
This was a start,
Yes.
so I'm happy.
So on that point, our last agenda item is establishing some kind of regular cadence of the meetings.
Yeah,
I don't know what's appropriate at this point, given the workload or what we want to do. I mean, previously, I think we did a monthly. I don't know if that's the right.
at this point, because we have really nothing to go on, I'd say a month unless we hear other thing,
Okay.
in which case we can hold a meeting in 48 hours.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. So, as far as timing goes, Tuesday at 7 o'clock, you picked it, so I'm assuming that works for you.
The first Tuesday of the month works for me,
First Tuesday of the month.
because I do attend I try to attend the planning board meeting, and they're the second and the fourth Tuesday.
Okay. Jason, Tuesdays, is that a good time for you to arrange coverage for the Tiny Humans?
Yes, as long as I have plenty of notice, I can arrange coverage.
Okay, so,
We'll set up a Zoom system.
okay, and this time we'll actually unmute properly. I use Teams all the time, it didn't even dawn on me. Anyway, so we're looking at the first Tuesday of the month.
Yep.
What's the
So our
first
next
Tuesday?
one would
November
be,
1st.
That is November
November
1st. There is a select board meeting that night,
Oh,
because
the
of
Halloween.
Halloween.
Halloween, yeah.
but if you don't,
well, we
you don't need
can,
me specifically, so I just wanted to let you know.
well, let's just plan for it. If we have work to do, we'll do it. If we don't, we could do
We'll have a very short meeting.
a very short meeting.
Okay, so what time? 7?
7 PM preferable?
Yep.
Amy, are you still there?
I am.
You mentioned that you were considering joining the board?
Well, she can't. That's what
I
I'm saying.
mentioned that I would like to supply you with information. I don't know if I want to join the board.
She'll be a consultant.
Okay, you can't fault the guy for trying.
We'll see, we'll see.
There's a chair here waiting for you.
Lots of chairs.
Lots of chairs. I'm looking out at a whole room of empty chairs. All right, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded, all those in favor?
There you go. Oh, look at that. I know.
What
look at
time?
that.
Aye.
Aye. Time adjournment is 8:09.